All right, welcome back to the Net to Net podcast. I'm your host, Sam Kelty, aka Scout, and here today we're with another episode of our college football playoffs reaction to the season ending. Champions have been crowned, and now diving into the postseason. It's been a minute since I've done college football episode in a while. It's been hectic. The field is set. I'm ready to break down each of those games after seeing the college football playoff conference champions be crowned yesterday and on Friday. So to dive right in, here we go. Very excited. First of all, we talk about the first game, Indiana, number 10 Indiana taking on number 7 Notre Dame. Battle of Indiana right here. Looking forward to what we see. Notre Dame, once again, don't play in a conference, don't get to be called conference champions, but they are the highest non-ranked team, but the team that's ranked 7th. Don't play in a conference championship. I'm the only team not playing a conference champion or to fight for a conference championship because once again they were the independent, but should be a good game. Really shows who's going to be the team in Indiana. Is it number 10 Indiana Hoosiers? A lot of looking in onto the placement of Indiana just because they went 11-1, but the strength of schedule was not there, and the strength of record isn't there at all. Really, only playing Ohio State, but not playing Oregon, not playing Penn State, which is kind of hurt their chances to be higher than where they are at 10. There could have been a chance that they got knocked out, which would have been interesting because of a one-loss team losing out to it like a Bama or an Ole Miss or a Texas A&M or a Miami that didn't get in with 2 losses or 3. But it should be an interesting game. I think Notre Dame, they can get the job done with Riley Leonard, can move on, but this should be another big test for Indiana. Not, like I said, not playing a bunch of teams that are up to standard. A lot of their schedule was weak compared to a lot of other teams in this conference into the playoffs. Game 2, number 11 SMU taking on number 6 Penn State. And SMU, I think this is going to be a really good matchup. SMU does have to travel to Penn State to play them in Happy Valley. Got to deal with that cold weather. Let's see if SMU can do it. They did play very well last night in the ACC championship game. They came back and really lost them by a field goal. They did come back. They were losing 24-7, I believe, at halftime. They rolled back and showed fight in their first season in the ACC. And we talk about Penn State, who actually played a tremendous game. Just some mistakes here from Drew Aller at the end of the game, and from James Franklin from Penn State to close it out against Oregon. They were down 8 with 2 minutes left, 2nd and 1, and they decided to throw the ball to their receiver who really wasn't open. If you know you can get separation from the cornerback and get up the field, that works. But you're 2nd and 1, you're on the 35. Just run the ball. Run it. And you run the ball, you get the first down, the clock stops, get set, go, and try to get a touchdown. But Oregon held up for most of the game, which was very nice to see, me being an Oregon fan. But yeah, Penn State put up a fight last night. I think this could be a very good game. Like we said, Penn State fell due to not being conference champions, obviously because of Oregon. Game 3, you have Clemson versus Texas. That is going to be a dogfight. And then the winner of that plays Arizona State, which should be nice. I like Texas in this one. I just think Texas has the firepower to do it. Clemson, which Kate Klubnik are we going to see coming into this next round? But then there's also the side of, can Texas bounce back from this SEC loss? Can Quinn Ewers prove that he is a good quarterback, a best quarterback in the nation? But it will be interesting to see. I'm very excited for this first year of the 12-team playoffs. I think it will be so fun to watch. We talk about Texas. Can they get it done? We saw the mistakes throughout the Georgia game, the offense not clicking. Can Isaiah Bolden, can Matthew Golden, can Sly Bolden get the job done? Can we see the Texas running backs get out in the space like we have seen all season? And then it really just comes down to Quinn Ewers. Can Quinn Ewers lead this Texas team, this talented Texas team, through the playoffs? It'll be interesting to watch. And then we talk about probably the best game of the first round probably will be Tennessee, Ohio State on December 21st. Ohio State will host Tennessee, which will be very cool to see. Ohio State, can they bounce back after a loss to Michigan? And that's surprising. Can Ryan Day get the job done? I think this is really pressure on Ryan Day because if they lose, pretty much if they don't make it to the championship, Ryan Day's done, I think, at Ohio State. And then there comes the talks of who will replace Ryan Day at Ohio State. Like I said all season to friends and stuff like that, there's not really that many good coaches out there right now to go get. There's good coaches, but they're unproven. And there's coaches that are available that aren't good. They're not going to pay Jimbo Fisher. He's just not a good coach, and he's not worth all that money. Can you try Dan Lanning to come to Ohio State? Can you entice him? I don't think you can. I don't think you can entice a Kalen or a Dan Lanning to come from Alabama or Oregon to come coach them. Can you? And I don't think like a Josh Heupel would come either. Or I think their best chance was maybe last year getting Mike Elko to come, but he ended up going to Texas A&M, and they ended up sticking with Ryan Day. So that would be an interesting game. I think that's the most interesting game of the first round. And then you have Arizona State, Oregon, Boise State, and Georgia all getting byes due to them being conference champions, which is shocking because Clemson is a conference champion, but they don't get the first round bye because of Boise State was ranked higher than Clemson when it comes down to the rankings when they decided who would get the byes. And I think they hit it on the head perfectly. I don't think Clemson deserved to get the bye in the first round. Yes, they were conference champions, but they did not blow SMU out of the water. They did not play the Clemson football that we've seen in years past with Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson and those boys. So once again, I think it will be a very fun, entertaining playoffs. You know me, I'm going to be rooting for Oregon all the way through because as an Oregon fan, and they're the best team in the country. They have the best weapons. We saw it last night. Yes, the defense showed that they have some vulnerabilities, but they showed that they can get in a shootout with anyone and still prevail. And Penn State pretty much was playing catch up. Every time Oregon would score, they would score. But when it came down to it, Oregon was clutch. They had most plays. What we saw from Tez Johnson was unbelievable. What we seen from Dylan Gabriel, he pretty much booked his ticket to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Speaking about the Heisman Trophy, it's pretty much, I think it'll be Dylan Gabriel, Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty, and I think the winner. I think it's going to be kind of like last year's situation. Who wins? Who gets farther in the playoffs? And if they both falter at the same area, like for example, let's say Boise and Oregon both lose in the quarterfinals, then it comes down to stats, and then it can go either. I think Dylan Gabriel won't win it, and I think it comes down to Jeanty or Travis Hunter. But I think if Oregon makes a run, I think Dylan Gabriel will win it. But to give all props, I think I've been saying throughout the entire season, Ashton Jeanty deserves to win the Heisman. I think Travis Hunter is a great player. He plays both sides of the ball. He's unbelievable. He can score touchdowns and he can get interceptions. And he played great defense. But in the end of the day, we talk about Ashton Jeanty, a guy that has rushed for 200 yards in six plus games this season. He's over 2,000 yards. He's going to probably break Barry Sanders' record here soon for single season rushing. He has the most touchdowns in college football running. And we talk about the winners that won the Heisman, Reggie Bush and Derrick Henry. Those guys did not have the same amount of touchdowns that Ashton Jeanty has, the amount of yards that Ashton Jeanty has, and those guys won Heismans. So I think give Jeanty the Heisman. I think he's the best running back in the country. I think there's no one better than him to show. Well, I would say he's probably the best running back that we've seen in a while. So probably since Derrick Henry and Zeke. Jeanty is a full-on monster. If you watch him when he gets through the gap, how his offensive line blocks for him, when he sits and waits and he picks his hole, and when he's running downhill, he's one of the most lethal running backs in the country, and it's hard to get him down compared to like Derrick Henry. Once he starts going downhill, it's hard to get him. It's hard to stop him. Jeanty shows why he is so good. But going forwards with that, I think this is going to be a very talented team, or these are very talented teams that can show why they can win. Just to break it down, I'll put my predictions out here right now. First round, I have Texas over Clemson. I have Ohio State over Tennessee. I think SMU is going to upset Penn State. And then I think Notre Dame beats Indiana in the second round. Texas winning plays Arizona State. I think Texas wins. But Arizona State puts up a fight. I think it's going to be a rematch, Ohio State, Oregon, and Oregon takes the dub again. But it's going to be close. I think SMU versus Boise is the next one, with SMU upsetting Penn State. I'm going to go Boise. And then Notre Dame, Georgia. I'm going to go Georgia, obviously. I think Georgia is one of the best teams in the country. But this all depends if they have Carson Beck. I think with having the bye, getting Carson Beck an extra week of rest, especially getting injured in the conference championship, will help. Going into the next round, I think it will be Boise, Georgia, and Oregon, Texas. I think Oregon meets Georgia in the national championship, and Oregon gets their revenge on Georgia from a couple of years ago when Georgia flat out embarrassed Oregon in the first game of the season. It was Dan Lanning's first season at Oregon, when they got killed like 49-3. But Oregon gets their revenge because I just think Dylan Gabriel is more talented and a better quarterback than Carson Beck, and I think the offensive line is very strong compared to Georgia's. So I'm going to have Oregon win the national championship. I'm going to say it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be 45-37. But yeah, those are my predictions for the college football playoffs. Hope you guys enjoyed. I think I could spend a lot of time breaking down why there's so many flaws with teams that didn't make it, like Ole Miss, Alabama, Miami, just to name a few that didn't get in. And we talk about, and I think I always say that the first season is going to be trial and error because you're going to have to look at it. This is just a practice run, kind of, pretty much. This is the first year they're doing it. This is them experimenting with how they look at teams, because everybody's going to bring up why Bama didn't get in. Well, Bama had 3 losses, but Alabama had more top 25 wins. Their best win was against Georgia when they were number 5. Indiana's best win was at Duke, an unranked Duke team. The strength of schedule, the strength of records are so far different. So I think after this tournament's done, then they'll go at the end of the season once college football's over and go, this is what worked. This is how we have to fix it. This is how we can break it down, because you have to look at all the metrics behind it. You can't, because there's looking at the metrics, looking at all the stats and the data driven behind it, like strength of schedule, strength of record, how many points they've given up, how many points they've scored. And then you look at the eye test. Just looking at the eye test, we look at head-to-head matchups. We looked how Ohio State did against X, Y, and Z, and we look at how Penn State did X, Y, and Z, and we compare. Oh, okay, Penn State had lost to Ohio State, lost not by much, and then they go out and have a better performance against Oregon. Is Penn State better than Ohio State? Ohio State lost to. Ohio State has 2 losses. Penn State has 2 losses. One's to Ohio State, one's to Oregon. Ohio State lost to Oregon and Michigan. So it's going to depend from that. So the committee has to be fair, but also see it from both ways of what makes the most sense, what teams deserve it, which teams don't. And I think a thing that Nick Saban said during the selection show is it's so unbalanced, and I totally agree with him, because Indiana never played Oregon and Penn State. They only played Ohio State. Ohio State had to play Penn State and Oregon. Oregon played Ohio State and Penn State. Yes, they played Penn State in the conference championship, but that's just because they both made it. We talk about Texas playing Michigan. They played Texas A&M. They played Georgia. Bama played Georgia. Georgia played Texas A&M. Bama played Texas. Bama played Texas A&M. Certain teams had better strength of schedules. Obviously, because they have to look at it like, do they want to go play? Do they look at who they played compared to just their record? Because we have teams going out and playing non-conference games against good opponents like Texas, Michigan. But is that something that comes into consideration? It should, because they are playing at elite level, elite teams. And it also doesn't help that the conferences are so unbalanced now. They've never been really truly balanced. And now with the additions of teams going to the SEC and the teams going to the Big Ten and the ACC and the Big 12, it's just adding those teams. It's going to be interesting to see for the progression throughout the season, or not the season, but the future of college football, especially with the transfer portal and everything else that comes into effect. So yeah, that's kind of my spiel on the college football playoffs. I'm very excited, very happy that Oregon got the first round bye, the number one seed. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully, come out with my mock draft for NFL here soon once people start declaring and returning, because it's hard to make a mock draft with players that you don't know for sure are going to stay or go. So waiting until most of the big guys declare before I can start doing that. But have been keeping an eye throughout the season on whose stock rose and whose stock drop, especially who's going to play in these bowl games to up their stock and keep their stock same. But yeah, definitely keep a lookout on that. We will have a soccer episode and this probably releasing tomorrow. So keep a lookout for it and see you guys on the flip. See you.